Hello and welcome back to Blackbox QA again. So, till now, we were using simple locators like ID, name, and CSS, which we have seen in our previous session. But in real projects, 80% of the time, these locators are missing, or they are dynamic or duplicated. So there's where XPath and CSS Selector becomes our most important weapon. So in this session, we will be discussing about locating elements using XPath and CSS, right? Okay. So before that, why do we need XPath and CSS? So what happens is in real websites, there could be a chance that ID may not be present, class may be duplicated, or name may not exist and elements may be dynamic, right? So whatever locator strategies we have seen or practiced with up till now, so those might not work, right? So in that case, how do we find elements when nothing simple is available? So the answer is using XPath and CSS. So what are their benefits? They allow us to find element by any attribute. Also, the elements can be found by text, elements can be found by parent child relationship, elements can be found by position, and also by partial match, right? So coming up to our first topic of this video, which is like XPath. So let me ask you a question. What is XPath? Okay. So basically, XPath is a path expression used to navigate through HTML DOM. But before that, let me explain you this concept with an example. Yeah, so this is basically my local drive where I have saved all my Python projects, and if I show you, so this is basically its path, like it's saved under C directory, or I can say it. So this is its complete path, and under PyCharm projects under C directory, all these projects have been saved. Right now, if I want to go inside this particular project, which is Selenium script, if I click or go inside it, then if we see, then an additional path has been added after this backslash. So this is the complete path of my Selenium script project from my local directory. Okay. Now, same way is the XPath. So if we go and see the dome structure of the website which we were working up till now, so over here, let's say if I want to have the XPath for this text box, and if I do inspect, okay, so this particular path got highlighted. Now if I do a right click on it, and from here, if I copy the XPath, like the full XPath, okay, so how does it look like if I paste it over here? So see, it has started from HTML. So if you see HTML from here, and from there it then navigated to body, this node, and traversing through various different node, it came up till here, like the text area. So this is called basically the XPath expression. Okay. Now if I talk about uh, the basic XPath syntax, so before that, I would also like to tell you that the XPath which we have copied here is called as the absolute XPath. Now, there is this concept of relative XPath as well. So, the syntax for the relative XPath is like this. I'll show you here itself. Okay, so it starts with just a second. So what happens is it starts with double slash, okay, then comes the tag name, and then comes the square brackets. Inside square bracket, we will be using at symbol, and then the attribute for that respective web element, then an equals to, and under or in between the single quotes, we will provide the attribute value. So this is the basic XPath syntax, or I can say this is the syntax of a relative XPath. Okay. Now Tag name, attribute, and its value we have already discussed while discussing the other Selenium locator strategies. So I guess you are aware of it, but let's do some examples so that it will be more clear to you. So for example, let's go back to our practice website, which was this one, Swag Labs. Okay. So in here, again, if I inspect this username text field and see what is happening in DOM, yeah, so see, this got highlighted, right? Now we have already seen that this is the tag name, and all these which are written, all these highlighted text which are written in orange are called as the attributes, and the ones which are there in blue are called the attribute value. Okay, so let's take an example of ID this time as well. So this is the ID attribute, and this is the value of that ID attribute. So how our XPath will become now? So if we go back, we will provide, we will write it like this: double slash, tag name was input, right? And inside square brackets, we will provide at the rate. Then attribute name we will write. So this time we are using ID, and equals to, and here we'll provide the attribute value. So we'll be using this ID attribute value and paste it over here. So this is called as the XPath for this particular web element, right? Now there are other ways also. We have used one such attribute which is called ID. Now for example, if I use this in our Selenium code, how it will be like. So let's update this code itself. Okay. This time we are again using this source demo website, so we'll copy this URL and paste it over here. Now we'll remove all this. Okay. Again, we will call the driver object, and using dot operator, we'll be using find element method. So as we're finding only one method, so we'll be using find element. As we are finding a single web element, so we are using this find element method. Now again, using by class, we will be calling this time XPath as the locator strategy. Right now, again using comma, then we will be providing the XPath value. So our XPath value is this, right? So we'll copy this whole thing and we'll paste it over here. Okay. Now again, we will be entering some text inside it. So we'll be using send keys. Okay. And in send keys, let's put some value A, B, C, D. Okay. And then let's try this out. Okay. So if we run this file now, let's see what happens. So it will again launch the Chrome browser like this, and see, it has written ABCD inside it. Okay. So that means whatever XPath value we have written over here is working correctly. Now let's use some other attribute name. So for example, if we go back again to this website, so there are other attributes as well, right? Name is present over here. So let's see if we are able to create an XPath using name attribute. So this time what we will do, instead of ID, we will put over here name, and the values are same for ID and name. So we'll keep it as is, and let's run this now. So if we run it, yeah, so it has again successfully printed ABCD inside the username text field. Okay, so that means with this name attribute also, our XPath is working fine, right? Now let's take another example to make it more clear. So this time, uh, let's use this type attribute. Okay, so over here we will put type as an attribute name and its value as text. Okay, so we'll put it over here. So this is also one such XPath, and let's run this once. So you will see it will perform the same operation again. See, so that worked properly with type attribute as well. Okay. Okay, so now there is also one more way to find the XPath is XPath using text. So this is very powerful. Why it is powerful? I'll show you in a while. So let's consider this particular website as an example for now. This is our google.com landing page. Okay, so let's inspect this Gmail link. Okay, so here you will see it has certain attributes present to it, but it also has a text associated to it, which is Gmail, as we can see in the UI as well, right? So what happens is it may be a chance that in the course of time all these attributes which are associated to this Gmail link might get changed. Okay, so whatever XPath you have identified for this particular element using any of these attribute uh, will not work because the attribute value would have been changed, right? So the best way, or you can say the most powerful way, is to identify the XPath using the text of the associated web element, right? Because until unless there is any major requirement change or the business um, declares that now this Gmail link would not be read as Gmail, it will be read as something other. So its text will change. So until then, the XPath will remain as is, right? You're getting my point. So in that case, what how our XPath will look like? Same way, it will start with double slash. It will have the tag name as A for this. Okay, so we'll put A as a tag name over here, and inside the square brackets. Now this time instead of any attribute name, we will provide like this text method. Okay, equals to the actual text value which is associated to this Gmail link, which is Gmail. So we'll copy this and we'll paste it over here. Right now, let's copy this value and paste it over here, and we'll also change the URL. Okay, so here we'll change the URL. Now, as this is a link, so the only operation which we can do is click on a link, right? So we'll do a click after it's been identified. Okay, so let's see what happens. So once we run this code, so it will open up the Google landing page, and see, it will, yeah, it has clicked on that Gmail link by just identifying that Gmail web element based on its text, right? We have just seen it. So this is also one such thing. Okay, so yeah, again, like as I was explaining, so let's say if developers removes ID and class attribute for any associated web element, so can we still find this particular link, this Gmail link? So the answer is yes. Using its text and using the text method, we can find it. Okay. Now again, there is another XPath technique by which we can find XPath using partial matching. Okay, so what does that means? Let's go back to our Google page again. In here, let's search this particular link which is called as images. So if we do an inspect, we'll see there are certain attributes associated to it. Okay, so let's take this attribute which says area label, and it has this value as search for images. Now let's say we don't want this entire value for the XPath which we'll be creating using area label attribute. So what we can do is, so we can create XPath in such a way that using the partial uh, value of that particular attribute also, we can identify the XPath. So again, the syntax is same, almost same. Like it starts with a double slash and a tag name. So we'll see the tag name for this one is again A. So we'll use that same tag name, and inside square brackets, we'll use a keyword called as contains. Right now, contains, and inside the small brackets, we will use the attribute name, which was the area label. Okay, we'll copy this attribute name, we'll put it over here, and then we'll use comma, and in between this single quotes, instead of giving the full attribute value, we'll use only the partial value of it. So we'll just copy the search for and paste it over here. So this is a very this value is small in our case, but it may happen that there are certain attributes whose values are large, or means it's like complete sentence. So instead of having that entire value provided, we can use partial values for that particular attribute using contains keyword. So we'll use this XPath now, and put this value over here. Okay, now as this is a link again, we'll be clicking on it, but before that let me show you manually where it navigates. So it navigates to this Google Images. Okay, so we are expecting the same to happen through automation also, but yeah, let's see. So if we run this code, so it has launched the browser, and it has clicked, and this page has been received like Google Images. So it means our XPath was correct and it's working fine. So this is also one such attribute. And again, if I ask, like, if ID changes every time, so what should we do? We can use contains. So again, as I was saying, that it has certain times what happens, the IDs are large. So for example, let's take this particular attribute value. So it's very large and very complex also, right? There may be a chance in future that its value gets changed, not entirely, but some partial text of this value will get changed. So in that case, we can use contains keyword to identify our XPath. Okay. So again, as if we go back in the beginning of this session, we have discussed about absolute and relative XPath, right? So absolute XPath, I have shown you. Let's say if I inspect this text box, and if I do a right click here, and if I copy full XPath, so see, it has started from the very beginning. So from the first node of the DOM, which is the HTML, and it has traversed through various different nodes till it reached out to this particular web element. Now, it is always recommended, and it's always suggested, and you can say it's a best practice also, not to use the absolute XPath. And it is always highly suggested to use relative XPath. Now, why? Because in between, there are certain nodes through which this absolute XPath is traversing to reach to this web element. In future, it might be the case that if any of these node in between is disappeared or removed by the developer, so this whole path which you have already identified to create your XPath, so this whole path will no longer be valid, and your script will fail because it won't be able to identify the respective element. So it's highly recommended to go with the relative XPath technique. Okay, so that was all about the XPath. Now let's discuss about CSS Selector also. Okay, so CSS Selector is the same thing developer use for styling the page, right? And Selenium can also use it to find elements. Okay, so if I talk about its syntax, so more or less it's the same as we've discussed for the XPath. So the syntax for CSS is, it doesn't start with the double slash, rather it starts with a tag name directly, and it uses the square bracket also. Inside square bracket, it uses attribute name, and see, it hasn't used the at the rate symbol which we had in XPath, and simply after after equals to, it uses the attribute value. So this is the syntax for using CSS. Now same way, if I go back to our Swag Labs website, so again, let's try and find out the CSS for our username text field. Okay, so if we inspect this, and here we have the tag name, and let's go with ID attribute again. So let's create an XPath for this. So it should be, sorry, let's create an CSS for this time. So it will be input. Okay, sorry, let me provide a hash before it. And then tag name we have given, attribute name is id, and the value of the attribute is user hyphen name. Okay, okay, user underscore name, and we'll put it over here, and let's see if it is working fine or not. So if we run this program, so it has launched. And okay, one more thing before that, we have to provide some send keys, or we need to type something inside that username text box. So for that, let's give a b c d e f. Okay, now this time again let's execute this. So it has successfully printed a b c d e f. Okay, now again, if we talk about CSS selector, so there is again a technique to identify CSS selector, especially if you are using the id attribute, right? So for that, what you need to do is the syntax will be tag name followed by hash, and then the value of the id attribute, right? So it will be like value of id attribute. Now, this will be this CSS selector syntax only if you are going with ID attribute, not with anything else. Like let's say if you want to go with the name or class, then in that case this syntax won't stand valid. So let's say if we create an XPath like this, so for this username field itself, because it has this ID attribute and the value also. So here we will be giving the tag name as input followed by hash, and whatever ID attribute value is there, we'll use it and paste it over here. So let's see if this XPath technique works fine or not. So we'll copy this and let's replace this with this one and run this command. So if everything goes good, this should again print a b c d e f in username field. So yeah, it did. So yeah, it did. Okay, so this is one such CSS selector syntax if you are going with the id attribute. Okay, or in other case, um, let's say you can have it by using the id attribute value alone itself. So for example, here we are still using tag name, but let's say with this particular thing like hash id attribute, or let me put it over here like this, means we don't need to use the tag name also, even then it will work, right? Like this. So if suppose we remove tag name from here and just put a hash and then the id attribute, so it should work. So let's see if it is working or not. um, it has launched, and see, it has printed abcdef. So this is also one such css selector technique. Now the other one, let's say if you are using class name as an attribute to create a CSS selector. So one traditional way is like this. You can use this particular syntax. So for example, for the same username field, this time let's go with class name. Okay. So to write the XPath, we will put the tag name, which is input, and inside square brackets we will put attribute name as class. Okay, and then equals to the value of the class attribute, which we'll copy from here. So we'll copy this one and we'll paste it over here. So let's use this XPath. This time we are using class attribute instead of id. Okay, and see if it works fine or not. If we run this code, should again print a b c d e f in our username field. Okay, there's some error. it didn't print it out correctly. So let's find out what could be the error. Okay, so here we are using okay, this is the value for the class attribute. Okay, we'll copy this entire value. Okay, and then let's run it now. Yeah, so it has printed correctly. So uh, last time we didn't had this entire value, we just copied this one. Okay, so only it given us the error, but now it's all correct. So this was the traditional way of, or you can say the traditional syntax for getting the CSS selector. Now again, just like the ID attribute, if you are using for finding the CSS selector, we had these two syntaxes, right, for CSS selector. This one and the other one was yeah, this was one of them where it has the tag name followed by a hash and the id attribute value. The other one was without having the tag name, and simply after hash you can put the value of the id attribute. So same goes with class attribute also. So let's say if you are using class attribute to find a CSS selector, there are other syntaxes as well. So for that, what you can do is, the syntax goes like this: tag name, then dot, and then the value of class attribute, right? Okay, so let's find out if this works for us or not. So tag name for that username field is again input. If we put dot and copy this class attribute value, paste it over here, and use this as our CSS selector value inside our program. Let's see what happens. Okay, ideally it should work, because this is one of the smartest way of finding the CSS selector if you are going with class name attribute. Okay, so see, again it has given us the error. So let's find out why this error happened. Okay, this time let's remove this, but first let's see why this error came. Dumping unresolved backtrace, no such element exception, because okay, they are saying that the element was not found with this particular CSS selector. But yeah, let's run it again. Okay, it has printed A B C D E F correctly. So it's all about like the value of the class name which is present over here, as we have seen in our previous session also. It has a compounded value, because this is one such value where input underscore error is given, then there's a space and form underscore input. So sometimes what happen in such cases, because of this compounding thing, you might get an error. So in that case you can use either the partial value. So partial value works at some places and full value works at some places. Okay, now again, as we have discussed in case of XPath, like we can identify the XPath using partial attribute value. So same can be happened in case of CSS as well. So for that, what you need to do is you have to give the tag name, okay, and inside square brackets you have to give the attribute name. Let's say we are going with id, okay, and after that you have to provide star, okay, and then equals to, inside you have to put the partial id attribute value. So over here we have id as password. Okay, so instead of giving this complete word as password, even if we put pass over here, it is expected to identify this particular web element. So let's copy this, and okay, before that let's create this css. So tag name is input, okay, inside square brackets we are using id attribute, but we are giving the partial value of id. So let's give pass for now, okay, and use the CSS selector. So here we'll put the value, and let's try and run this. So this time ABCDEF should be printed in a password field. So if we run this, so it has launched the URL and see it has printed, but is as this is a password field, so it's masked, but it has printed the value inside the password field. So even if with partial ID attribute value or even with any other attribute for that matter, if you are putting it partial by just putting star after the attribute name, you can find the valid CSS selector. Okay. Now what if only part of attribute is fixed? Okay, so in those cases you can use star in CSS or contains in XPath for finding the partial value of the attribute, right? Now CSS cannot do all these things. So it cannot find by text, it cannot go backward to parent, and it is less powerful than XPath. So if we do a comparative study between XPath and CSS, like which one is more better, so it goes like this: means you cannot find element by text using CSS selector. However, you can do the same using XPath. Okay. Now backward traversal. So we have seen how DOM is structured. It's like a tree type model. Uh, so backward traversal can happen in XPath while it cannot happen in CSS. Now, when it comes to speed, so XPath is slightly slower and CSS is slightly faster, right? And when it comes to power, so XPath is more powerful, however CSS is limited. So this uh, backward traversal, like from top to bottom and bottom to top, that can only happen with XPath, and there is this concept of XPath access which we will be discussing now. Okay. So what happens is XPath access is an advanced but an extremely important topic, and also most of the time in interview it's asked. So this will help you or level you up from beginner to real world automation engineer. Okay. So what happens is till now we were finding elements directly using their own attributes, but in real projects many times the element does not have unique attribute. So, how do we find it? So, the answer is we find it using its relationship with other elements, right? So, this is called the XPath axis. Now, XPath axes are used to navigate through the DOM tree using relationships like parent, child, sibling, ancestors, etc. So, just like family relation, parent, child, brother, sister, grandparents, DOM also works the same way. Now, if I show you a sample dome structure, so as we have already seen in most of our website while doing the automation practice, so it looks like this, right? So this is like the parent node for these two subnodes, or you can say these two subnodes will act as child node for this particular parent node. So if I further simplify this, it looks like this. So under this div, we have label input, and buttons, right? So inside div, if we go, we have this label, then we have input, we have label, input type, and button, and then this particular div node is being closed, right? So, because sometimes target element has no ID, but nearby element has text, so we locate known elements, then move to target elements. So, if I tell you about the syntax, so it goes like this. Let's say you are referring to a node, so we name it as current node. Okay, then yeah, before that it starts with double slash, and after this current node we put a single slash, and then we give access, along with that double colon and the target node. Okay, now let's check this with an example. Okay, so for that we will open our this google.com landing page, And this time let's try and inspect this text box. Okay, so if we okay so okay, let it get loaded properly. Yeah, so this is the respective dome section for this text box which I have inspected. Now if we look over here, so this has the tag name of text area, and it also has this particular node which has the tag name of div. Now what happens is the syntax which we have discussed already. So what we will do, we'll first catch up the current node. So uh, first what we'll say, let's do it here itself. Okay, so we will start with double slash, and to find the current node we will do div, and over here we'll put the attribute name as js name, and we'll put the value of that js name as this. So if we see, this particular thing got highlighted in yellow. So let's consider this as our current node, and going by the syntax we'll do single slash, and as we have seen over here we have written xs. So for that we have this term called as following hyphen sibling, and after this double colon we will give the next tag name which is over here mentioned as text area. So we'll put text area. Okay, and if we put enter, so see this particular section got highlighted, which is which represents the input text box for this particular UI, right? So we'll copy this, and in our example let's remove all these things. Okay, so now as we are going with XPath, so here using by class we'll call XPath, and inside here we'll put the XPath value which we have created. Let's replace this URL with Google. Okay, now it's expected that this time it should enter A B C D E F inside the text field. So if we run this file, we'll have this google.com getting opened up, and see it has entered A B C D E F. So this was the concept of following sibling. Okay, let's discuss other XPath access techniques which are there. So we have seen following siblings. So now let's discuss about another XPath access technique which is called as parent. So for that we have one website. So I'll refer that, and that website goes like this: https colon double slash selector hub, okay, dot com slash xpath practice. Okay, so basically this is a dummy website where this you can also refer to practice your XPath learnings. Okay, so see how this page looks like is once we hit enter. So this is our website. Okay, now I was talking about the XPath access technique. So let's discuss about parent. Okay, so for that let's inspect this particular logo present over here. So once we right click on it and do an inspect. Okay, so this is an image because it has a tag called as img. So so this is basically an image what they have given over here. And um, it is and this is the parent tag for this particular section of dom. Okay, and this has the tag name as a. So this is basically a link. So after clicking on this particular logo, it should navigate us to this particular link, right? Now what parent does is parent moves one level up, right? So for example, mm, if we identify this particular section, okay, and if we want to get to this particular node, so for that we can use parent. So first of all, let's create an XPath for this particular section. Okay, so here itself we'll create, doing Control F, starting with double slash, and so this has an tag name as image. Okay, and let's give this, let's take an attribute of fetch priority. Okay, so at the rate fetch priority is equals to high. This is its attribute value. Okay, so see, it got highlighted and has given the result as well. So only one search result is appearing, so we are at the right track. Now let's say if you want to navigate to this particular tag like one level up, so in that case we can use parent. So nothing you have to do is just simple uh, single slash, and this parent you have to give, and along with that, like whichever tag name you want to refer to, so that tag name you can give. So if we give a, then this particular section has been highlighted, right? Now similarly, let's take any other example. For example, let's inspect this icon over here, go back to home page, right? Okay, so this has been highlighted over here. Okay, and so first of all, let's find this XPath. So we'll find this time by using text associated to it. So as we know, uh, by this we can have its XPath. So first we'll give the tag name, and which was span, and then we will give text method is equals to the associated text. Okay, so see, we have identified the respective section in the DOM by this XPath. Now we want to move one level up. So one level up means this particular section span is present over here. So nothing, we'll put single slash, we will put parent, and with double colon, we will give span as the tag name. So see, this is highlighted now. Okay, this particular section. Now, what if we have identified this first? So here the class name is present like this. So let's identify this particular element with attribute name as class. Okay, and we'll give this value over here. But this time, okay, first we'll remove this. So see, it has highlighted this particular section. Wait, I'll show you. Yeah, this particular section. Now if we want to go one level up, so we can go up till here like a. So we'll do single slash parent, and then double colons a. Okay, so here it is getting highlighted over here, right? So this is how it is. I'll write it over here for parent, like the generic syntax. So it goes like this: current node. Okay, then, okay, starting with double slash current node, then single slash, then you have to write this keyword parent with followed by double colons, and the tag name where you want to navigate to, like one level up. Okay, again, similar to parent, there is this concept of child. So just opposite to it, so child moves one level down, right? So whatever we did up till now, so let's take an example of this particular section itself. So we have identified, with this we have identified the current node of this one, right? So the only thing is you have to first get the current node. So from there, one level up or one level down you can go by using either parent or by child, respectively. So we have already identified this, right? So what we will do, uh, we will do a single slash, then we will put this keyword called as child, followed by double colon, and if we want to navigate to this like one level down, we will give its tag name, which is span. Okay, so if we hit enter, so see, this particular section has been highlighted now. So from here till here, like from here, whatever I've highlighted, so this will now act as a current node, and now we want to go one level down, so we are using this child keyword followed by double colon, and then the respective tag name where you want to go one level down. Okay, so this is how you can move up and down from the current node. So I'll write the syntax for this as well: double slash current node. Okay, then followed by a single slash child, followed by double colons and the tag name where you want to navigate to. Okay, now next thing is following sibling. So following sibling we have already discussed. So after that is preceding sibling. Okay, so in following sibling, if you remember, it moves within, so there will be a parent node, and inside there will be a number of child node, right? So this was our syntax for following sibling, right? So I'll write it over here so that you can copy it. So what happens in case of following sibling? It starts with double slash. You again have to have this current node, and then single slash. You have to write this keyword called as following sibling, followed by double colon and the next tag name where you want to navigate. The same syntax goes for preceding sibling also. So it goes like this: like you have to first identify current node, then you have to write it like this: preceding sibling. Okay, followed by double colon and the next tag name. I'll show you how. So coming back to our Google website, so initially we've used this concept of following sibling to find this particular text box, right? So how it was like, so I'll copy this XPath which we already have from here and paste it over here, right? So see, this particular text box got highlighted, right? So from here till here, this was acting as a current node, and then we had this keyword of following hyphen sibling, followed by double colon with this particular tag name, which was text area. Now same goes with the concept of preceding sibling. So uh, it will move to the previous sibling. So we have this over here as the current node, and when it comes to following sibling, so this was the next sibling for this one. And if we go with the concept of preceding sibling, so this will be the previous sibling of this particular current node. So for that, let's remove this following and replace it with term called as preceding. Okay, and now this text area won't be there. So what is the previous sibling for this? It has the tag name as style. So we'll put this over here. So see, now this particular section in dom is getting highlighted. So uh, this is basically how you can go from one node to another using the concept of following sibling, preceding siblings. And here you can notice one thing. So these are all the XPath techniques. And as we have already discussed, with XPath you can move in both the direction in DOM. Like you can move from upward to downwards or downwards to upwards, which cannot happen while using the CSS selector. And this is the one reason why CSS is faster than XPath, because CSS is traversing in single direction. However, XPath is traversing in both the direction. That's the reason why XPaths are slow and CSS are fast. Okay, so this is one such question which can be asked in interview, so you can keep a note of that. Okay, now coming back to our XPath access concept. Now, the next one in the list is ancestor. Okay, so what happens? Till now, we have seen, we have discussed about parent, we have discussed about child, then following sibling, and preceding sibling. All these were moving like one level up or one level down. Now, what if you want to you want to move basically multi level up or multi level down? So there's this concept of ancestors and descendant. So let's first discuss about ancestor. First of all, I'll give you its syntax. Okay. So it is like this. it starts with double slash. Like basically you have to first identify the current node, as we are doing up till now for rest of the techniques. Then you have this keyword called as ancestor, okay, followed by double colon, and whatever node you want to navigate to, so respective tag name for that node you have to provide. So let's say for example div is the tag name, or in general form we can give this as tag name. So coming back to our Google website, so here we have, let's take this as our current node itself, okay, this is the one. From here let's try and navigate to the tag which has this tag name as div, okay. So we'll use ancestor followed by double quotes, and let's use div, okay. So where it navigated, it has navigated to this particular page or this particular section in the dom, right? Now if you look from where we have navigated till here, so if I remove this one for now, so we had this particular section highlighted, right? Now if I put it again, so see, from here it has navigated multi-level up, right? And it has navigated to this particular section. Now it has 7 iterations of it. So for now I'll show you, like let's say if you want to uh, get the first iteration, so in that case you can use indexing. So for indexing you can cover this entire thing with small bracket, and then you can use this rectangle bracket, and inside this you can provide the index. So let's say you want to go with the first one, okay. So you'll provide first index over here, okay. So it has found out 1 out of 1 iteration. Now similarly you want to go to the next iteration, so you can give the index number as 2, okay. So this is where it has highlighted, means this is the second iteration. Similarly you can go up till the seventh one also, right? So this is how you can use indexing to navigate to the respective dom structure if you have encountered multiple instances using the XPath or maybe whatever locator strategies you are using. Okay. Now we have discussed about ancestor, so which has been used to move up multiple levels. Same goes with descendants also. So descendants moves down any number of level. Let's try that out as well. So I'll remove this indexing part for now. And okay, so for the descendant concept, let's highlight our okay. So we can see for this particular node, this particular section is getting highlighted, right? So let's take this as our current node, okay. So for that we'll create an XPath using attribute as JS name. So for that, start with our double slash div, and then JS name is the attribute, and then the value of JS name is this, okay. So see, it has highlighted over here. Now from here if we want to go multi-level down, so we will use this concept of descendant. So for that you have to write descendant, okay, followed by double colon, and whichever node you want to navigate to, just provide its tag name. So let's go, let's see if we want to navigate over here, so we'll say text area. See, it has highlighted this particular section. So from from here we directly navigated to this particular section in the dom. So we have jumped through all these nodes in between, and we have came over here. So this is the concept of descendant. So with ancestor and descendant you can move multi-level up or multi-level down in your dom, right? Now there is this concept of following and preceding. So we have seen the concept of following sibling, preceding sibling, but there is a concept of following and preceding as well. But yeah, before that, as our ritual, let me write the generic syntax of preceding sibling also. Sorry, descendant. Okay, so current node, then descendant, followed by double colon, and then tag name. Okay, now there's this concept of following, and its syntax goes like this: double slash current node, then single slash following, followed by double colon and the respective tag name. Okay, initially we used to have this following siblings also. Now we are talking about only following. Now what does it do? So everything that comes after current node in dom, so that all thing will get highlighted if we use this following. Okay, so everything that comes after current node in dom, so that all thing will get highlighted if we use this concept of following. So let's see with an example. Okay, if we go back to our Google, uh, let's check. Let's keep this as our current node for now, which is this one. Now let's say if we use following with a single slash following and double colon, and if we put diff over here, so see, if you look at the search result, 288 nodes are there after this particular current node, right? Now after this, if we keep doing enter, one by one it will navigate to all those nodes right in the dom. So again, if you want to get to the respective node or the very specific one, so if you get its index, that index you can put it over here, so it will take you to that exact node which you are looking for. You just need to get that index, right? So we have already seen the concept of indexing. So let's say if you want to move to the eighth iteration out of those 288 instances, so see, it has taken you to that exact node, right? And only one is now been one search result has now been identified. Okay, so yeah, this was the concept of following, and same goes with preceding also. So this is our current node, right? Which we have taken in case of following as well as an example. So what happens in case of preceding? Same way, you have to write single slash. You have to then write preceding followed by double colons, and let's check how many div tags are there before this current node. Okay, so if we write div over here, see, we have got 42 search results. So that means before this particular current node, there are 42 nodes which has the tag name as div. Okay, so again, like there are multiple search results. Same way, if you want to navigate to any particular one, you can use the concept of indexing. So from here, if we see, we have covered almost all the XPath access techniques, and I can say we are almost at the end of this session. So what we have learned up till now, we have seen all the 8 locator strategies which are provided in Selenium, and we have seen or we have practiced about XPath and CSS in much more detail. So, yeah, that was all about this session. And thanks for being up till here. And have a nice day. Thank you.